guys, how's it going? I'm Sydney from PhoneDog.com. This is the Samsung Craft. It is probably one of the best messaging phones, if not the best messaging phone, on the market right now. It is a 4G phone. It has Wi-Fi. It also has a capacitive touchscreen display. It's actually an AMOLED display. And it has a 3.2 megapixel camera with autofocus and a flash. So it has all these amazing features packed into this messaging phone. And so I've been testing it for about a week now, and I'm very super impressed with it. I'm like very super impressed. I'm not just super impressed, I'm very super impressed. So I'm going to give you guys a full review so you can have an idea of the pros and the cons, and basically why I think it's the best messaging phone on the market right now. So, Samsung Craft from Metro PCS. I'm Sydney from PhoneDog.com. Let's go check it out. Okay, so this is the Samsung Craft from Metro PCS. And first of all, just while I have it powered on, I want to go over really quick. There were some people that wondered why I mentioned that there was a SIM card in the box that shipped with the phone. Because Metro PCS is in fact a CDMA network, but for some reason the phone does use a SIM card. So it may have something to do with the 4G, or maybe it was easier to do it that way, I'm not sure. But anyway, it does use a SIM card, although Metro PCS is a CDMA network. So anyway, while we have the battery cover off, you can see the battery. It is a 1500 milliamp hour battery, and so, you know, by estimates, you should get about 8 days of standby time and then a little over 6 hours of talk time. I found that the battery, you know, was not the best, especially for a messaging phone. You know, granted, 1500 milliamp hours is a huge battery for a messaging phone, but it still didn't last as long as a typical messaging phone would. You know, usually you can get on a messaging phone. Typically on a messaging phone, you can get a good, 3 days of use, maybe 2 days. But I only got about, probably about a day and a half of use, and so battery life wasn't that great. But anyway, so here's the phone, and for some reason all of the icons are messed up. I had them more organized than that. But anyway, it is a 3.3-inch AMOLED display. It actually has a capacitive touchscreen, and I'm going to tell you, there's a lot of, couple of messaging phones that have come out lately that have had capacitive touchscreens. I'm thinking the LG View Plus, the Samsung Flight 2. These all had capacitive touchscreens, but they weren't really that great. In those instances, the quality was so poor that I would have preferred a resistive touchscreen. But this capacitive touchscreen is great. It's up to par with the capacitive touchscreen that you'll use on a smartphone, whether it's iPhone 4 or the Galaxy S devices. Any one of those capacitive touchscreens, it's great. Now, it doesn't support multi-touch, so when you're in the web browser, you'll have to just basically do a long hold, and then a zoom bar will come up. And so when we go to the web browser here, I'll show you how it works. Again, it's a 4G phone. You saw there that it does support Wi-Fi. So, it's a little strange because it's a messaging phone, but so much about it makes you think that it's a smartphone, but it's not. So I'll go here to PhoneDog.com and just give you guys a quick look at 4G, how it works on the Craft. So push OK. And it's not too bad. First few tests were a little bit slow, slower than I would have expected, but once I started testing it and using more websites, going to more websites, it definitely sped up. And, where I am right now, my location, just in the particular room I'm in, for some reason the 4G is slower than it is out just when I'm out and about. Okay, so the page is somewhat loaded up now, and it didn't take too long. Like I said, it's faster when I'm in a different room. I get better coverage. But so since it doesn't support multi-touch, you can either do the double tap to zoom, or you can do a long hold and then zoom in and zoom out. So kind of interesting, and it works okay. It's really not too bad. And this is one of the things where if you ever forget that you're actually using a messaging phone, this is where you'll be reminded in the web browser, because, you know, like I said, there's so many things about it, the 4G, the Wi-Fi, you know, the overall build quality, the camera even, the AMOLED display, which is beautiful. So many things about it, you know, make it seem like a smartphone, but, you know, it's really not, and web browsing is kind of one of the areas where you're going to figure that out. And so, you know, it's not horrible, but it's still a messaging phone, and so it's not going to be, you know, wonderful. It's still going to be slightly uncomfortable, and so click on a link here, and we'll wait for it to load up. So, you know, again, you see the typical messaging phone web browser, HTML browser, so it's not the greatest. It doesn't have all the features of, you know, say an Android browser or Opera or, you know, Dolphin HD, but you know, it's still good. Somewhat gets the job done, and there are a couple of other features that you can use in terms of data that do work pretty well. Even though the web browser wasn't outstanding, you do have an email client here that I'll go to. So you can see it's, you know, it's kind of cool looking, has a nice little design, features. You can delete, you can actually have multiple accounts, so I have only my Gmail account. But you can have multiple accounts, and it just has a nice little design to it. You know, obviously it's not going to sync up. You know, every time you get an email, it's not going to tell you right away. You'll probably have to go to the application itself and tell it to refresh. So, you know, it's not going to be as instantaneous or as convenient as a smartphone, but you do have those features. You can see here also YouTube and Twitter. Twitter, you know, this just goes to the mobile site as well as YouTube. While I'm talking about YouTube, I mentioned earlier that the screen is beautiful, and it is. You can't really tell from the camera, but things are just very crisp. The font or the typing is very crisp. The colors show up very well. It's a beautiful screen. It comes with Star Trek, the full-length movie, pre-installed, and you know, it's amazing to watch. But when it comes to watching videos, whether it's from YouTube or from, you know, any videos that you've recorded, it doesn't look that great, and I don't understand why. You would think that they would find a way to take advantage of the beautiful screen, but if we go here and then, whoops, we'll go to the Weekly Bone with John Quatch, John Q, and we'll play it. So you'll see when it starts to play, sorry for my reflection showing, you'll see when it starts to play, it's kind of choppy. You know, you really can't tell from the video, but it's very grainy. It's very grainy, you know, kind of pixelated, and it is just kind of choppy, not very smooth. And you think, you know, again, it also doesn't take up the full screen. You'd think that they would find a way to, you know, make this play better. That may just be, you know, some of the limitations of, again, it being a smartphone, but, you know, I was a little bit disappointed by that. It does have a 3-megapixel camera with autofocus, and it also has a flash. So I was very impressed by the camera, and I'll show you some sample pictures. The flash was great, the autofocus. Anytime you have an autofocus, you're instantly going to have pictures that are 10 times better than a camera without an autofocus. You know, it has white balance features, self-timer. So the camera was very impressive. I'll show you a couple of sample photos. Okay, so this was taken, it was pitch black, and I just used a flash, and so you can see it looks great, and so the flash worked very well. Again, here's a couple more pictures. Detail is great, and, you know, again, just having that autofocus, it makes everything so much clearer, just takes a great picture, and then again, looking at the picture on the beautiful AMOLED display, you know, it looks great, and so the camera I was very impressed by. So let's go back to the home screen.